Howdy girls, it's Ayla. I'm here today to show you different moves that you're going to be used and that you need to know for intermediate testing. I'm not going to spend a lot of time breaking it down, but I want to make sure that you know them so that you'll be able to pass our test. And by no means are these all the moves that we test. There are plenty that I might even show some that aren't on the test that we revise and we constantly update to make sure that we have them for everyone. Make sure that you've warmed and stretched before you start any sort of activity at all. We'll start off, you need to know from your list arm placements. You need to know regular, whether that is more of a cabaret or if it is more of a tribal style. You also need to know high, and you also need to know low. You also need to know a few different other arms, such as temple, verse, pagoda. Some also call this lotus, which is nice to accent certain moves. You also need to know your L arms. Make sure that you don't have your arm out in front. It needs to be straight up and down. You also need to know cross wrist, whether it's above your head, at your chest, or around your hips. We also need to cover Aladdin, which is hand behind the head, to make sure that you lift your hair up. It's nice if you want to do a hair flick in there for an accent. You can also do Genie, just a little bit more cuter. And I believe that's it, except for arm placement, but remember that you can do any different combination that you want and they all will look good. We have moving arms, which is next. So of course your snake arms, whether if they're large or if they're small. We also have them to the front, which is called mermaid hands. Remember to splay the fingers, tuck the thumb, depending on what style you do. We also have undulating arms. Look more like a bird, I know, but it's still a move. Also remember that we have undulating hands. Whether you move them up and down, move them together, or you cross them. Also, we have, let's see, slides now. Remember to keep that line straight and to be able to slide your hips back and forth. And of course, you need to be able to walk with them, whether you walk forward or backwards. We also have chest slides. Remember to keep that line also. And try to keep your belt as straight as possible. What's next? Lifts and drops. Okay, so for lifts, if you're doing the Greek hip lift up, remember that you're pulling this up and in. Versus a drop, which you are taking a hip in and pushing, you're lengthening down. You want to make sure that you have all three layers up and down. And you can do them in a row, or you can alternate them with the music. But you want to have as much range of motion as you can. We also have chest lifts, first drops. Down, up, down, up, down, not out, bad, up, down, 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 down. Okay. Circles, number 5. You need to be able to do not just big hip circles. You also need to be able to do the small ones within the plane. Remember to keep your slides, your hips flat, and to be able to keep them together. Remember to tuck in your tummy to make sure that you don't accidentally throw out your back. Keep it a good plane. Now that's different because your hips are going this way versus an umi, an internal hip circle, where instead of doing more of keeping it flat, we're more doing a tuck, which is something that we didn't add in, which I think is very important, especially in Turkish dance, because It's all that 12 o'clock region that we love to use in Turkish dance. Make sure you lift one hip up, you tuck, you drop, and down. And then you can smooth it out. Make sure you hit all 4 points. Your pelvis goes this way, and it also goes the other way. And we'll even put our hands on our hips just like Turkish dance. Well, certain styles of Turkish dance. But remember, you need to be able to do the tuck and drop. Lifting the pelvis up. You don't want to go too far back. This is bad. Make sure that it's more emphasis on the front and that you can do them on both sides. What else do we have? Chest circles. Okay, so with your chest, remember that you have the 4 points where you have your side, lift up, side, relax. So this one's more of an outward one. Versus a Ferris wheel, which is more of a circle vertical this way. Versus more of an outward one. But you also need to remember, not only do we have the outward front ones, we also have the tribal style ones, which is more of a lean back into it. And I noticed the emphasis is more of a sharp beginning and a slow back. Backwards versus forward. I don't have it on here, but remember that you need to be able to do crescents too. Oh, and another thing about the circles with the butt, don't forget with your tucks, that you have your hip tucks, but you also have your throw to belly ones when you just use your glutes, and your tummy does that little shimmy with it, versus doing tucks, which is more contained. Because that will next be figure eights. Alright, remember that you need to be able to pull backwards as well as push forward. Remember that for horizontal. Now for vertical, you need to be able to move up and down like a Maya, making sure the heels are on the floor. Versus a toxine, which is more of a scooping up motion. Toxine scoops up, versus a Maya pushes down. Depending what style you use, but try to keep your chest still so you're isolated in here. We also have side. I usually call them the Greek scoops, where you do the little figure eights this way. Isn't that fun? Let's see, what is next? Oh yes, chest, also figure eight. Whether they're the horizontal ones, where you go up and down, versus the vertical ones, which is more putting your shoulders into it. That's one of my favorite moves. We now have undulations. So we have the external ones versus the internal. The internal is more just the belly rolls, just in this region, versus the external ones, which can be larger, or they can be smaller. You also need to remember, not just doing them forward, we have to do them in reverse. You need to be able to do them very smoothly. Let's see. What else is there? Oh yes, we also have the side snake undulation, which is more cabaret. I notice they use more of those disco type ones whenever they do it. Or at least just some of my favorite dancers do it that way. Versus more of, I'm not perfect with it, but the tribal sidewinder with their side snakes. I love them. They're so cool. I still need to work on those. We also have the Arabic, which it depends which style. Egyptian folklore, they'll do more of one of these undulations, the side step circle, versus the tribal one, which is more of an undulation one, with their arms down. And they also go in circles and travel with them, which looks really cool. I also know there's other different moves, Arabic 1 and 2, where they do different things, where they travel in crescents and whatnot, in more cabaret that I have seen. I'm sure tribal does it too, but I'm not as experienced with it, so I can't say for sure. Sorry. You can always ask Brianna though. She's a pretty big expert in it, and she's certified. We also have shimmies. Of course, your shoulder shimmies. You want to try to keep your belt as straight as possible with punches or speeding it up. We also have hip shimmies, whether if they're more of a relaxed, more of a normal one, where you just go and keep that belly going, or whether if they're more of an Egyptian with the knees, a little bit more control. We also have locking shimmies. I don't know if they mean you want to do more of a 3/4 up or a 3/4 down, or if they want you to do just shimmy and walk, whether it's just your chest or just your hips walking. There's no real definition that they have put out. I think 3/4 might be for the advanced level, not the intermediate. We also have hip twists, which is very important. A little bit more pronounced in Tunisian dance, and I noticed not as many American dancers do it. I don't know why, but we can definitely bring it into American cabaret. Make sure that whenever you twist, keep that top lifted, and you can be able to move with it. We also have choo-choos. On your toes, ladies. You need to be able to move back and forth with it. And you also need to be able to do circles with it. We also have turns now, such as the paddle turn, which is more in the Punjabi, where you keep most of your weight on one foot. This is also good for sword work or any bouncing work. We also have hip circle turns. Now I don't know if this means a hip circle where you do one like this, or if they mean more of in place with a circle. Let's say I'm going clockwise and I'm turning my body clockwise, same way as my hips. Or if you have to turn your hips clockwise and your body goes counterclockwise. Oh snap, makes you dizzy. You need to be able to do both of those, hips clockwise and hips counterclockwise, and spinning counterclockwise and spinning clockwise. All 4 different variations. We also have standard 3-point step. So that's a 1, 2, 3, hold, 1, 2, 3, hold. You can also add on accents, 1, 2, 3, hip, chest, 1, 2, 3, hip twist. Very common in dance, very common in belly dance. We also have for turns, well that's probably it for now, miscellaneous, hip walk. So hip bumps, to me, that's what it says. It might be the one where you're lifting your hip up and you're scooting along. This is called, I believe, choo-choo in tribal style dance. Now, remember, difference between tribal fusion, cabaret, and folklore. I'll try to make sure I'll keep those definitions straight. With tribal, with being the group, follow the leader. Tribal fusion, which can be solo or individual, but more choreographed. And then you have cabaret, which is just a hodgepodge, using American cabaret things thrown together, versus folklore, which is dances of that specific country. Let's see. Oh, you also need to know your cross step, whether you go forward or back, and you also need to be able to do it with hip bump. I think that pretty much covers all the moves that we have on the exam here. I'm sure there's many more. Feel free to show as many as you want to, and thanks for watching.